Good afternoon, everybody. My name Gareth Soloway here for trading the close today. And again, interesting day in the markets. Big rally on the back of the PPI data that came in better than expected, meaning lower inflation on the producer price side. So, what does that all mean? Well, it ultimately clears the way thus far for the Fed to start cutting rates in September. Obviously, though, we have to get through the CPI data tomorrow morning, and that's at 8:30 a.m. Now, based on this rally, the markets, and this is really, really, really important, folks, the markets are starting to price in an equally as good number on the CPI. If it doesn't come in equally as good, meaning it doesn't beat, that could be problematic for the rally that we have seen in the markets. And that's always important is that when you get two numbers like this and they're related, the markets very quickly price in, oh, well, PPI was like that, so therefore CPI must be that good as well. And it opens the door to potential for kind of disappointment, if you will. Okay, so that's where we are at this point. I do want to just jump in here and take a look at the markets. Look at this rally today, folks. The Dow is up 383 points, almost 1%. NASDAQ is up 2.2%, or about 373 points. Even the S&P, big rally, up 86 points, 1.6%. Oil, after multiple up days, is pulling back. Gold is down slightly on the day, more of a pause day there, waiting for the CPI. And then Bitcoin is catching a little bit of a bid today back into that key level that I've talked about with you guys for many days. Overall, we can see generally green out there. So this means it's a pretty broad-based rally. Needless to say, when you see NVIDIA up 6%, that obviously is one of the key helpers to the rally, right? I mean, that definitely is helping the markets stay very net positive when you have a 6% move in one stock that is the valuation that NVIDIA is. Chip stocks overall, big day today in the chip stocks. Another big day, I should say, after yesterday's big rally. All right. So that's where we are at this point in time on those things. As we flip back to me, just a couple things to take note of. Earnings generally are over. We do have more earnings a little bit later this week, but they're not big earnings, right? You have Walmart on Thursday morning. You do have AMAT, Applied Materials, on Thursday after the close. Wednesday is Cisco after the close. But we're not going to get any more of these mega cap tech names until NVIDIA, which is towards the end of the month. All right, flipping over to the chart here on the S&P, look at this broad-based rally in terms, well, I shouldn't say broad-based. It is broad-based, but look at how today we opened higher, and then what a tight range. This always amazes me because it makes me think there's algorithms in charge of this when we basically are held within a tight range on the S&P the entire day. And that's really what we saw today is a general grind higher. Volume is not super heavy, which is a little bit of a kind of a concern. In general, I would say you don't want to see a market. You want to see markets that rally on heavy volume because it tells you that the institutions are in play here, right? It tells you that the institutions are buying the market. When you see it on light volume, it tells you institutions are not rallying this market higher. Speaking of rallies, take a look at NVIDIA today. Big move on NVIDIA to the upside, again up 6.5%. I've already laid out my levels to look for on this. So we're coming close. If we rally a little bit tomorrow, we should see this level. The level's around 118 or low 118s. And then if that gets taken out, you're looking at 126. But again, we're starting to see this rally get long in the tooth here. Now, when I say long in the tooth, let's flip back to the spiders. All right, let's go back to the S&P 500, flip to the daily chart. Look at this. Remember this zone that I gave you guys yesterday in trading the close? We talked about this in trading the close. Excuse me. Well, guess what? We're right into that level now. It's actually remarkable how fast we've rallied up into this zone. So again, we're looking at resistance here on the charts, 543 to 546. Again, 543 to 546 on the charts here. And that, again, is going to likely be a big level of resistance. All right. So, again, let's continue to monitor and see how things go here. But nonetheless, the markets are in rally mode, and tomorrow's CPI will either confirm or deny the continuation of this rally. Here's the NASDAQ, by the way. NASDAQ, nice little push. We did fill the gap today, but again, we have a down-sloping trend line here. It looks like we're piercing that. That doesn't mean a whole lot to me because it could just be signaling that we're headed a little bit higher on the charts. Next big level, if we continue up, would be around the 480 level. Looking at Apple today also getting through a little cross section here, at least initially, but 2, 4, 6, 7. This is also a concern, and this is something that I usually don't reveal to a lot of people because the charts are so key in terms of the methodology. But what you have here is what's called a time count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm actually leaning based on this chart, based on the chart of the Nasdaq, the S&P. I'm actually leaning towards a pullback tomorrow in the markets, and I think we get a check back. Even though technically on the S&P we haven't filled the gap, maybe we'll fill it initially on the CPI, and then we might see a pullback at that point. Okay. All right. So that's where we are at this point on the Apple chart. Again, time count to the upside. Nasdaq 100 is much the same. 2, 4, 6, 7. That's a time count as well on the Nasdaq, S&P, and that should denote a little bit of a sell-off tomorrow. Taking a look at Starbucks, this is pretty much par for the course with Starbucks in terms of speaking for how boisterous the rally is here. Just because this company got a new CEO, the stock is up 24.5% today. When I look at this, all I can think about is short it. All right. Essentially, what you're doing is you're taking all of the bad news that pummeled this thing down, and it's negating it to a point where you could literally go back over a year of where it was trading. I mean, all the way back in here. In addition, I want to show you guys something. So, number one, look at this. Okay, right here, draw a trend line. Look at that. 96.75. We're basically almost there. We're still a little ways away. Want to see another cool trend line? Take a look here and stretch this one up right there. So again, we're right in. Look at that. Look at the beauty of this trend line. Low pivot, low pivot, low pivot right here, and right into that level as well. So this is really an interesting area for a potential short, and I actually think it might even be a good swing trade short here for the next little bit of time. I'll keep an eye on it, but nonetheless, I do think we will see a pullback in this chart. I could see it inching up into this line. We're not quite there yet, but maybe tomorrow, if we push into 97 or so, this again becomes a high proximity short. All right, looking at Bitcoin really quickly here. Let's see what Bitcoin's up to. Bitcoin is holding steady right on my key pivot line. And again, remember, if we can confirm above this line, we then go into a bullish bias. But without confirmation, it's still neutral or negative bias on Bitcoin, but nice little uptick there. Notice again how Bitcoin has behaved over the last 2 weeks like a risk asset. When the stock market was crumbling, Bitcoin was crumbling. Now we're seeing it uptick on a day when the stock market's having a good day as well. All right, next up, gold. We talked about that already, kind of having a flattish type day. You can see not much movement there as all eyes await that key data on inflation on the consumer side tomorrow, the CPI. Silver, same thing. Silver still unable to break through this level. But I will say this, if it's going to be able to break, tomorrow's the day to do it on the CPI data. If the CPI data comes in better than expected, you should see the dollar fall, and that could propel silver nicely to the upside. Again, the reason why lower inflation helps the dollar fall because it means the Fed can do more printing of money because inflation's lower. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us, and we may not want that, but that's the way it works. The lower the inflation, the more room the Fed, the government have to print more money. And again, we ultimately know the negative outcome of that, but at least for now, that's what the market is excited about because the market, remember, the market is all about short-term positives. Short-term positives. That's what the market cares about. The market's not thinking 10 years down the line like you and I might be thinking. We're not thinking, oh, when I get to retirement, I hope the system's still functional. The market is literally valuing things based on 6 to 12 months out. That's it. And they want money. They want drugs. Drugs are money to the market. All right. Oil today, nice little pullback after a major move up. So nice little pullback today. Nothing new here. Resistance remains up around 82 to 83. Support remains around 72. And lastly, natural gas here. Wrong chart on natural gas. Let's bring up the correct chart. There we go. Boom, like right there. And you can see again, this is a line that I said would be resistance. And look at how 2 days in a row, price has failed. Each day it's been above the line. Each day by the end of the day, it's gotten rejected on natural gas. So again, that shows us pretty nicely that, again, markets are struggling here or natural gas is struggling here. NU is a symbol that just reported earnings after the bell. Look at that. Nice little pop on NU. Not a huge move, but nonetheless getting a little bit of a move to the upside. We'll see if it actually holds in the after hours. The vibe in the market is much more positive than it was over the last week. So it is possible that this stock could hold these gains. We'll have to watch and see, though. Again, guidance will be key, but right now the stock is pushing up on earnings. This is New Holdings. Again, it's actually a pretty decently sized company, about $60 billion company. So decent little move there. Okay. Other than that, yeah, I don't have a whole lot else for you guys. It's been a day where the markets have just ground up. CPI data is what we're watching tomorrow morning. Game plan will go off without a hitch at 9 a.m. and we'll make sure to cover it, or I'll cover all the details and all the big movers in the charts. You guys have a great one as always. Thanks so much for tuning in. Take care.